When I was a kid, my guitar teacher taught me this riff. I'm sure you know it. And I thought, what a quirky melody. Why do the notes jump so far and in such an awkward way on the fretboard? I honestly didn't understand it at that time. And last week, I told you all that if you learn a new riff or song or solo, you should always understand how the riff was written. Understand how the guitar player came up with that riff. And that's what got me thinking, what are some of the greatest riffs of minor pentatonic of all time that we can see literally by picturing the minor pentatonic scale and then picturing the riff and seeing how it fits in, because that's exactly where Jimi Hendrix got this from. And so here are 5 great minor pentatonic licks and where they come from. Now we'll understand how they made them. Let's look at that first Jimi Hendrix lick from Purple Haze, of course. And that quirky movement is a minor pentatonic shape. If you've studied all your 5 shapes, you'll be able to picture what shape that is. We can see, why does it jump up a fret when it reaches the B string? Well, it's because that's shape 4, and that's why I call it the funny B string shape. Maybe that's how I came up with this name all that long ago. If you picture shape 4 minor pentatonic, you'll see that those notes from that riff fit right inside it. And I think we can safely say that this riff is so great not just because it's E minor pentatonic shape 4, but because of the order of the notes, because of the jumps. It's not the notes in order. It's that he starts on the 5th, goes to the minor 7, and then the minor 3rd. So you could say that's an arpeggio of E minor 7 starting on the 5th and not having the root. If you wanted to sound real fancy, that's essentially what it is. Oh, and then that lands on a 4th. It's how those jumps are made on that shape that makes it sound so cool. So how did we know that was E minor pentatonic? Well, we can actually see that from the rest of the riff as well. Sometimes we just need to hear a root. Where is a root tone? And so far, we don't have one yet, but if you think about the very next thing that happens in the song, we do that, and guess what? We're ending on that E root. Not only that, but we have an open E there as well. And those notes, we could say partly in shape 3 E minor pentatonic right there, triple stack. So now we have decoded that riff, we understand it better, but also it does a lot more for us as well. Because let's say we stumble, let's say we're playing hard and we accidentally hit a note that is maybe not the one that Hendrix hit. But as long as we keep in mind our minor pentatonic shape, we really can't go wrong. But think about it this way, if we didn't know that it was E minor pentatonic shape 4, man, we'd really be lost, right? We'd just be thinking 7, 9, 7, or whatever it is, and we wouldn't be able to see the whole picture. We wouldn't be able to recover, as I like to say. We want to be able to understand the song also because it makes it easier to memorize, but especially because then we can recover easily if we make a mistake. Let's look at a simpler example. This one is pretty clear what key it's in because we're going to go straight to an E power chord right after the very short riff. Again, we can listen for the resolve. We're looking for what is a root chord or what is a root of the riff, what is a root note of that riff. And when we can find that, that is the clue as to what at least key it might be in. We still have to figure out if it's minor or major, but we can hear that and we can see that. Because when we look at those first 2 notes, if the root is E, what minor pentatonic shape would these notes be coming from? That would be shape 3, triple stack again. There it is. I think when I was a kid and I listened to this music and I learned to play these riffs, I used to think, wow, these guys were just geniuses. Like they had just received some kind of gift from the gods in order to create these things. But In reality, as we get older and we study the guitar more, we see, well, okay, they still were kind of gods, weren't they? They were still amazing, but we can understand how they wrote them, how when they look down at the guitar, they see certain things. And those are the same things that we can see as well. In this case, it's just shape 3, E minor pentatonic, triple stack. Here's riff 3. This one is also probably an E minor pentatonic, but let's check it out. There seems to be a theme, right? E minor pentatonic is so common with rock and roll. It's probably because we have this nice low E string here that we love to play. It's Paranoid by Black Sabbath, and I love the dissonance of the very first note that hammers on into what chord? Well, that's a classic rock and roll chord. That's just an E power chord. Arguably, it's very clever that he decided to do a little bar there so that you could do that hammer on from the 4th to the 5th, turning it into that E5. Now, it's not only that, right? We've got some notes after that. We've got some hammers. What a simple lick, but boy, is it memorable. So if it is an E, I mean, it must be. There's our root chord. It's an E5. Therefore, what pentatonic shape would it be in? You can visualize that. Roots there. That's got to be E minor pentatonic easy shape. What I find about that riff is how angular it is, and a lot of Black Sabbath stuff too, especially the solos. There's a lot of simple hammer-ons, and it's very minor pentatonic. They're great riffs to learn. Now we're going back in time for riff 4. This one, arguably, also is using a power chord as its basis, but it's quite a different riff. Any guesses what key it's in? It's not hard to figure out, right? I mean, it sounds like G. Sometimes if you just hit the note, just to confirm to yourself, yeah, that's the root of the key. And we can see as the riff moves along, it kind of looks like a G power chord, not unlike that Black Sabbath lick. The lick, of course, is by the Beatles, but who played this lick? I don't remember. Let me know in the comments if you know who originally played this lick on that track. So we have a theory that it's in G, and we can just test that theory by going, okay, well, does it fit a G scale that would make sense? Does it sound like G major? No, it's way too rock and roll for that. It sounds like G minor pentatonic. Test it out. You can just play a bit of G minor pentatonic, see if it physically fits the same shape, and see if it sounds right. I'm pretty sure it's just G minor pentatonic, easy shape 1. And now that I look at it, these riffs have so many similarities, you kind of wonder if Tony Iommi wasn't listening to Paperback Writer not long before they wrote Paranoid, because it has the same hammer on there, right? Let's do one more. Let's do something crazy. This one is in a totally different time signature. You know any classic rock bands that used crazy time signatures like 7/4? Yeah, you know this one. It's Money by Pink Floyd. And yeah, it is money. A lot of people learn this song and they probably never realized the crazy time signature there. But if you count it out, it's 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's really odd because most rock and roll is in 4/4. That's partly what makes it sound so quirky. I must admit, the first time I heard it, I thought, well, it's weird. There's something weird about that. Because I was young and I was learning guitar. I'd been playing things in 4/4 and I just felt like, is there something weird there? Is there a weird skip? No, the record was not skipping. That's the song. And so what scale shape is it in? Whoa, here's another power chord. We can literally see the power chord at the beginning of this riff. That is all it is just a power chord. It's like an arpeggio of a power chord. What power chord is that? That's just a B power chord. Knowing that also makes it easy to remember. When we remember, oh, it starts with just a B power chord. And therefore, does it sound like it's happy major? No, it doesn't sound like that, right? It sounds like minor. It's minor pentatonic for sure. And so we can just go through the process. Well, if our first finger is on the root and the root is on the A string, then it's yet again shape 4, funny B string shape. I think there's a reason why shape 1 and shape 4 are used so much in rock and roll. I think it's partly because shape 1 especially is easy to play, partly because a lot of the blues players were using shape 1 a lot, and of course blues evolved into rock and roll, but also there's shape 4 that is also pretty easy to play, and that is why I usually recommend to students get really good at shape 1 and shape 4 early on. If you want to take on the other shapes later, that's fine. We'll notice that so many famous riffs and solos are shape 1 and extension shape and shape 4. Now, if you want to be able to do this kind of analysis on your own so that you can memorize songs faster, play songs faster, you can check out our Patreon group, which is free for 7 days. And don't forget that I've got my book series called Guitar Soloing Like a Pro. We've actually got book 1 for minor pentatonic and book 2 here for major pentatonic. And my name is Blue Morris, and I teach guitar lessons right here in Vancouver. And I'll see you in the next one.